There's a couple of points, inshallah, we need to raise in relation to the brother's comments on the question. The question is, has this dawla got the agreement of all the Muslims, or the majority of the Muslims, in terms of what he mentioned of Ahl al-Hali wal-Aqd, or Ahl al-Shawka, the people of power, the people of authority, the people of influence. And he mentioned that it requires to have territory of the majority of the globe, or all of the Muslims in the world globally, to have control over them. Here we need to make a couple of points, inshallah, in terms of the Sharia and Usul, so that we can refer back at the end of the day to Quran and Sunnah. Because we know the principle in the Sharia, لا تثبت القاعدة إلا بدليل من الكتاب والسنة, that no principle can be established except with an evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. And we know from the hadith of Rasulullah in Sahih Muslim, ما من شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل. Anything in a condition, or any condition that is not from the book, or meaning from the Quran and Sunnah, from the revelation, it is invalid and it is batil. And we know as well how the text, we stop at the text, we do not add to it or subtract from it. And anything that was not from the deen in the time of the Sahaba cannot be in the deen, from the deen later on in times today. However many scholars may repeat it or say something, it cannot be unless it was in the time of the Sahaba. So the question, I have some questions as well for the brother. We need to clarify before we can really move on to answering this question. First is, we need to know what is the definition according to the Quran and Sunnah of Ahlul Hali wal Aqd, and where is the evidence in the Quran and Sunnah that in order to be a khilafah, that you need to have control over all the Muslims in the globe, or that you need to have control over the majority of the Muslims in the globe. First of all, I will contest this on a couple of points. The Prophet ﷺ, he is for us uswa hasana, the example to follow. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he was Khalifa to Rasulullah, he was the one who succeeded the Prophet ﷺ in his bay'ah that was given to him by the Ansar. And that is what is being transferred from Khalifa to Khalifa, one after the other. And the Prophet ﷺ, he took control of Yathrib, only Yathrib. While there were Muslims living in Abyssinia, he had no control over them. He had Muslims living in Mecca, he had no control over them and no protection for them. Even Allah Ta'ala revealed the ayah, وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ. What was the matter with you that you do not fight for the sake of Allah and the oppressed men, women and children? Meaning what? In those in Mecca. Those who were living in Mecca, oppressed by the Quraysh. And this was a command to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to conquer Mecca, because there were Muslims living there that he did not have the ability to protect them and to give security to them. And there were Muslims living in other areas as well. Even in Iraq, Ibn Abbas, he said that Rasulullah put the miqats for the people of Iraq because there were Muslims living there in Iraq and living in other areas. And even when they went out to the jihad, they would find sometimes some Bedouins, some others who were living outside of Darul Islam. And Allah Ta'ala, he revealed an ayah as well about those people who did not make hijrah to Darul Islam, meaning they lived outside, saying that you have no wilayah for those people who did not make hijrah outside. But if they seek your support in the deen, in istansurukum fi din, fa'alaykum an-nasr, that if they seek your support in the deen, you're obliged to help them. إِلَّا عَلَىٰ قَوْمٍ بَيْنَهُمْ وَبَيْنَكُمْ مِيثَاقٌ, except against the people that is between you and them is a covenant, is an agreement. Meaning there will always be some Muslims that live outside of the Darul Islam, outside of the Khilafah. This does not negate the Khilafah. Similarly, in the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, there were Muslims living in many places, in Yemen, in other places, including in places where there were uprisings taking place from the Murtadeen. This did not negate the Khilafah of Abu Bakr. Just because there are Muslims living outside, he does not have control over, meaning that Shawka over them. So this as a condition to say that there must be global control over all Muslims is not a valid condition to say that it must have in order to be a valid khilafah, unless there is an evidence from the Quran and Sunnah that can provide. And we know as well the principle that we cannot quote the fatwa of a scholar without to know the evidences behind it. It's only when we know the evidences behind that fatwa that we understand its correct position and correct context. So whenever we return back to the Quran and Sunnah, we will understand it properly, inshallah, in the best manner.